Oh, hello, yeah. Well, a number of lifetimes ago, but certainly in the modern age, one of the sort of shining examples, one of the great rallying cries amongst revolutionary movements was this idea of educating the populace. Yeah, you might go back to like the French Revolution, or indeed before that, if you like, the English Civil War. It was seen as a good thing to have an educated population because these people will question things, even if Putney debates, they might come along and bite you. And you can see that in the Soviet Revolution and, well, some of the more recent post-war ones as well. But we seem to have ground to a halt on that, and we seem to have a group of people that are committed to being, well, in some way revolutionary. Well, they tell you that they're revolutionary, but they certainly don't want an educated populace. And when I originally trained to be a teacher, I trained to be a citizenship teacher. It was an initiative that was put in by the Blair government, particularly David Blunkett, because young people weren't voting. And this was seen as a major problem. Infringement, well, of certain people was seen as a negative. So the idea was to provide politics education in school. Something these days that, well, that's just way too dangerous, isn't it? Because, of course, young people are doing the wrong thing. And these days we have a whole bunch of people that are very threatened with the idea of intelligence and education because it's that awkward question thing. And you can see this very much at the moment with our sort of current media. The Telegraph has had their red bird, or whatever the consortium was, fallen through, which the Telegraph is very pleased about because, cough cough, they're very concerned about independent journalism. Yes, there's a piece here in the Telegraph. You can read it for yourself if you can get past the paywall. Yes, you do have to pay for it. Sometimes you have to pay for certain things, I'm afraid. Come on to that as a concept. But anyway, yeah, it does contain a lot of warm words about how brilliant the Daily Telegraph is in terms of truth-telling and exposing dark corners, which is way beyond any form of parody, realistically, anyway. But the thing about the media and in terms of paying for it, you can see this stuff at the moment with the BBC, because of course those people on the right that really don't want an educated and informed populace are jumping up and down about it. Very pleased with the idea that they might get rid of the hated BBC. Why? Well, because it means that they can't control the narrative totally. There's always those chinks where certain ideas will come through. You know, all the things that they profess to be really keen on, all that citizenship journalism stuff that our Tommy and others allegedly are into. But if you look at someone like GB News, okay, which theoretically a lot of people, for example, will say exists in a marketplace of ideas, except, of course, well, GB News loses a great deal of money. And this headline is slightly misleading because if you look at the ad revenues for GB News, they are appalling. Okay, if you spend £100 million and make 15 million in advertising revenue, you're way down on the deal. So why does Sir Paul Marshall support GB News? Well, because it furthers his business interests. No other reason. His business interests and his political interests are entwined as in one. That's why he bought The Spectator, so that he can be in charge of the Spectator Christmas party, garden party in the summer, which is when everybody in the British media gets together and they all agree that people like Jeremy Corbyn are very bad. These days it would be Zach, of course, inevitably. But these various parties that will swear blind to you that they're very concerned about educated people very often aren't. And a fine example of this at the moment, of course, is Reform. Yes, I am going to slag off Reform. I could slag off some of the other parties as well, but today it's Reform, okay? If you want to see some of my other videos where I slag off other parties, knock yourself out. Anyway, today it's Reform. Yeah, because there is a site which was until very recently called Reform and Not Your Friends. And somebody, cough cough, took a dislike to that because apparently the colour turquoise, or whatever particular sort of Anglia blue it is that Reform use, means that various people in Reform would be very confused by the use of the colour, so the person can't use it anymore. However, they are going to carry on pointing things out about Reform, like, for example, the fact that they want to close libraries in loads of places. I think any civilised society that wants to close libraries, and you might well think across the pond at various political parties there that certainly wants to do that, and you might want to think about over this side of the pond at, well, certain political parties that thought austerity was price well worth paying, because after all we don't have libraries. Why would people want to do that? Well, because an informed and educated populace is very dangerous, kind of where I came in. Now, Reform are using this current BBC thing to sort of decide to run away from a BBC investigation into Kent. Oh, well, we couldn't possibly work with you because, our mates are friends of Jeffrey Epstein. Perhaps not a good look at the moment. But then if you just scratch slightly further, of course, they have refused at various levels to work with local newspapers because apparently they're too critical. Yes. So much for free speech. But that's what they want, you see. They want so that the vast majority of people won't be able to buy decent amounts of information. That's why a Financial Times subscription is so expensive, because you will find the truth in the pages, largely the truthful anyway, in the pages of the Financial Times, and you have to pay for it. I know I do have a subscription for the Daily Telegraph, but it's to keep an eye on them. It's a bit farcical, but it does contain a wealth of information about loads and loads of other things other than politics, which you can actually trust, which is something that you definitely can't say about GB News or Talk TV or all those other free levels of information that you find out there, because they will want to tell you one particular thing, and the one particular thing they want to tell you is the one particular thing that their owners want. It's the reason why Musk bought Twitter. It's the reason why various other nasty autistic spectrum boys in the States buy media out there. And if you like, not being rude about autistic people, it's why certain people who used to be Australian own so much media across the world. It's so that they can control you. And it's very, very iffy when political parties buy into that, because let's face it, Tony Blair made deals with people like that. That's what made him dodgy. And Boris Johnson was greatly friends with, we well know, with those kind of people. And indeed Starmer almost certainly had a deal with Murdoch, which will have enabled him to get that precious editorial in The Sun saying that maybe we should give him a go. Because you can see it, can't you? Because these are the types of people we deal with. There, I've slagged off the Labour Party. Hooray. Do have a lovely day. Do find things out for yourself, and know that doesn't mean Googling things until you find the answer that you want. Painful though it might be. Try being an adult that can change your mind about things when you find something new out. Read a book. Yeah, think. It's the most revolutionary act you can do. As George Carlin said, I do this strange thing. It's called thinking. Do have a lovely day. Stay well, curious if nothing else. Enjoy.